They say the water remembers every soul that fell beneath it, every scream that dissolved into its depths, every secret it keeps hidden beneath that cold, endless dark, the quiet ripple of a lake at dawn, the shimmer of sunlight that looks so peaceful it's all a disguise. Beneath that reflection lives something ancient, something patient, something that waits for the next person to cast their line without realizing they've cast their fate. These are not stories of simple fishing trips gone wrong. These are true fishing horror stories, drawn from real events, from whispers told around campfires, and reports that still chill those who live near the water. But within every horror lies a truth-a lesson about life, courage, and the fragile thread that holds us between calm and chaos. Fishing seems innocent, almost sacred. The stillness of nature, the solitude, the sound of the water, breathing gently against the boat. It's supposed to bring peace. But peace has a cost. And sometimes, in silence, we hear the things we weren't meant to hear. These stories tonight aren't just about monsters, or ghosts, or missing people. They're about what happens when human spirit meets the unknown. When fear forces us to discover who we really are. Every scream, every shadow, every reflection in the water holds a message about survival, humility, and hope. So as you listen, remember, fear is not your enemy. It's your reminder that you're still alive. It began with David, a fisherman from Oregon who loved the morning mist. He would always say, "The fish are fearless before sunrise." That morning, in 1997, the lake was covered in fog, so thick he couldn't even see the shore. It was the kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound too loud. He dropped his line into the water, expecting the familiar tug. But what came next didn't belong to this world. The line went tight, violently tight, pulling against his arms like it was hooked to something enormous. But the pull wasn't natural. It wasn't a fish fighting for its life. It was steady, deliberate, like something was rearing him in. He gritted his teeth, fighting the resistance, but the more he pulled, the stronger it became. The boat rocked, groaning under the force. That's when he saw it, just beneath the rippling surface, a pale, human-like hand gripping his line. His breath froze. For a moment, he thought his eyes were playing tricks, but then the hand twitched, and he saw nails dragging against the rope. His heart slammed against his ribs as he grabbed a knife and cut the line. The splash echoed like thunder, and for a split second, he could swear he heard a voice whisper, "Why did you let me go?" They found his boat later that day, drifting in circles. Scratches along the edge, as if someone or something had clawed to climb aboard. Divers went down into that black water and found an old net tangled with a rusted anchor. Inside were bones, bound tightly with rope. No one could explain how they ended up there, but the locals had their stories, rumors of a man who'd drowned years before, pulling others down in his rage. David never fished again. For months, he couldn't sleep, haunted by the echo of that whisper. But as time passed, he understood the message hidden in the terror. That voice wasn't there to curse. Hamet was a warning, a reminder of respect. He realized how fragile life was, how little control we have when nature decides to remind us of its power. The depths are not ours to conquer. We're guests, and we must move with humility. That story carries a truth deeper than fear. It reminds us that sometimes, what tries to pull us under isn't there to destroy us, it's there to teach us. The water, the silence, the unseen, all of it asks for reverence. In life, when something feels like it's dragging you into darkness, maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's a call to let go of what's no longer yours to hold. Survival isn't always about fighting hard. It's about knowing when to release the rope before it takes you down too. Then there was the story of the ghost at the riverbend. A man named Elijah often fished at a remote curve of the Mississippi River. Every evening, he'd sit with his lantern glowing softly beside him. One foggy night, he noticed another light across the water, faint but steady. It flickered, then waved, as if someone was signaling. Elijah waved back. The figure holding the lantern stepped forward, right onto the surface of the river. It took another step, and then another, gliding toward him silently. He blinked, and the figure was gone. No splash, no sound, just the soft ripple of disturbed water. The next morning, when Elijah told the locals, their faces went pale. They told him that every year, on that exact night, the same light appeared, the spirit of a fisherman who drowned decades ago, along with 4 others when their boat capsized in a storm. The river still carries their names, their sorrow, their unfinished journeys. Elijah never returned to that spot, but he prayed for them every evening. That haunting taught him something beautiful, that grief doesn't end with death. Some souls stay, trying to be seen, remembered, loved again. The fear he felt transformed into compassion. Some echoes are not meant to scare, they are meant to remind us to cherish what we have, to live fully for those who can't. Another story comes from a camping trip by a remote lake. 3 friends set up their tent, laughing as they grilled fish under the stars. That night, rain began to fall. By morning, the campfire was still burning bright, untouched by water. Their laughter died when they noticed something stranger. Their footprints had vanished, yet new ones circled their tent. One of them claimed he heard someone whisper through the rain, "It's warm down here." They left before sunrise and never spoke of it again. But later, one of them confessed that his father had drowned in that same lake years ago while fishing. Sometimes, the line between the living and the dead is thinner than we think. Fear is a bridge, not a wall. It connects us to what we've lost and what we need to understand. Trusting your intuition is your first defense against the unseen. The quiet voice that tells you something's wrong. It's not paranoia, it's protection. We're born with instincts that keep us alive. But in our noisy, modern world, we've forgotten how to listen. Then there's the father and son who went fishing one afternoon. The sun was fading, and the water glowed gold. Suddenly, an old radio floated toward their boat, playing static. The father laughed, thinking it must have come loose from another dock. He picked it up, and through the static, a voice whispered, "Turn back." The son begged him to throw it away. But before he could, a storm broke out of nowhere. Lightning struck the water right where they had been heading moments before. The radio stopped. Silence filled the air. They made it home safely that night, shaken but grateful. Some people believe that voice was divine intervention. Others think it was something darker. But either way, it saved them. Warnings don't always come in the form we expect. Sometimes life whispers before it screams. Listen when the world speaks softly before it has to shout to get your attention. In a small Alaskan town, there's a legend of the forgotten fisherman. In 1963, he vanished without a trace during a storm. Every few years since, villagers report seeing his empty boat drifting across the bay at dawn, filled with freshly caught fish. The nets neatly tied, the hooks set perfectly like he never left. It's as if his devotion outlived his body. Passion, when pure, doesn't die. It lingers. It becomes energy that refuses to fade. The forgotten fisherman reminds us that what you love deeply becomes eternal. Even if the world forgets your name, the universe remembers your heart. Then there was a man ice fishing in Canada who looked into a hole and saw eyes staring back. At first, he thought it was his reflection, but the eyes blinked. He fell backward, heart racing. Later that week, divers found the body of a missing hiker beneath that exact spot. The man was never accused or blamed, but it couldn't shake the feeling that the hiker had been calling for help through the ice. Sometimes, what looks peaceful hides unimaginable truths. Calm water can conceal chaos. In life, too, the quietest moments can hide the deepest pain. Stay aware, even in stillness, because not all peace is pure. Late one night, a fisherman sat alone on a dock, mending his net. The air was heavy, the moon low. From beneath the wood, he heard whispers his own name, over and over. When he leaned down, bubbles surfaced, forming the letters of his name before popping. He ran that night and never fished again. Instead, he became a volunteer for water safety, teaching others to respect what he once feared. He turned his terror into purpose. That's what survival really means, not escaping fear, but transforming it. And then there was the story of an elderly woman who came to the shore every morning with her fishing rod. She would sit quietly, whispering, "I'm fishing for my husband." Her husband had drowned years before in that same sea. She believed if she waited long enough, she'd find him again. One morning, her chair was empty, her rod still set, and her hat floated gently on the waves. Some say she finally caught what she was looking for. Love, it seems, is the one current that never ends. The water reflects everything, the sky, the soul, the secrets we hide. These stories may chill the blood, but beneath every cold ripple lies warmth, purpose, and grace. Horror, when seen through the eyes of the brave, isn't about endings. It's about survival. It teaches us that darkness doesn't exist to destroy it, exists to test the strength of our light. When you're lost in your own deep waters, remember that stillness can be your teacher, and fear can be your compass. The next time you stand near the water and feel a shiver crawl up your spine, don't turn away. Maybe it's not danger. Maybe it's the universe reminding you how alive you are. Dear God, when the waters grow deep, and the night grows heavy, keep our hearts anchored in courage. When fear surrounds us, remind us that your light lives even in the darkest depths. Bless every soul that has been lost to the waves, and every heart still learning to float. Let every storm teach us resilience, every chill remind us of warmth, and every shadow guide us back to faith. Amen.